And we're going ahead. We're live. Well, not live. We're recording it, but it'll be going out live later on. So, everyone, it's Cam from Arsenal Theory Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. And I've got a very special guest with me today for the show. Hopefully, this will be a regular contributor. To be honest, if it goes well, I'd love to have Sean back on. We've got gooner. Absolutely. You want to say hello to everyone?
Yeah, hi guys. Cam, thanks so much for having me on here. It's not every day you get the invite, but I will say I did have to turn down AFTV to be here tonight. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay. Hopefully you've not got a dodgy past then, because some of those guys, all sorts of stuff ends up.
No, I'll clean record. I managed to escape under the radar from that lot, thankfully. Very much.
That's brilliant. You're actually putting me to shame tonight. Oh, brilliant! Yeah, you're putting me to shame because you've got an Arsenal mug, you've got an Arsenal top on, and I can't. You're not really rocking much Arsenal memorabilia.
We'll be sipping here. As long as you've Arsenal inside, you're running through you. We're all the same, no matter what we're wearing. London's red after all, you know.
Absolutely. So, for anyone watching, basically, I've been friends with Sean's dad, Tony, for quite a few years, and we did a show with Tony a few days back on last Friday. So please go and check that out if you want some stories about being a gooner in the hooligan years. Tony's not a hooligan, but he was kind of around the time it was happening in the 70s and 80s, and just some real fun stories about players mooning him in the crowd and all sorts of things. So well worth
showing up with your tenner stripped in your hands and shoving it across and jumping in. None of this ticket touting and queuing up and ballot crack.
Absolutely. But today we're going to be talking about the modern Arsenal. What's happening now, not what's going on in the past. And let's start with yesterday. Arsenal back where we belong, back in the Champions League. I should have had the music queued up, actually. I'll do that next time. I should have had the Champions League music queued up.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That will be us.
Absolutely. So Arsenal destroyed PSV 4-0. David Raya taking his chance very, very well. So one thing I wanted to ask you, Sean, what did you make of the lineup? Were you surprised to see Ramsdale dropped again?
To be honest, I was. I know, Cam, from watching, your previous podcast, you're very much of the thinking, despite what Arteta says, that Raya's in now. He's our number one. And I absolutely loved what I saw from him there in that game. But yeah, I can't lie, I was a little shocked. Ramsdale's a player I personally have a lot of affection for. For me, he's exemplary to some degree of this new squad, the new way we're playing. And I thought it was a little harsh for him not to get that first call up on the night. It's been 6 years since we've been there. A lot of our players obviously making their Champions League debuts, and some big points there, some big markers put down by the players in terms of their Champions League debut. But yeah, I don't know if I was surprised. I was a little disappointed seeing it on paper. But when you put the performance out there, he didn't leave much to be desired. He wasn't asked too much, thankfully, on the night. But yeah,
it was. I know what you mean. It does feel harsh, doesn't it?
It does. I wouldn't want to be making the decisions.
No.
I'm glad we have Arteta at the helm and not me. We'd be struggling for decisions.
Yeah, same here. We'd still have who knows who in goal. I think I felt, I did start feeling a bit bad for Ramsdale. And then I kind of had to sort of knock myself out of it and go, okay, look, this is elite level sport. You don't get any higher really in a football sense than this. This is the pinnacle of it, really.
Beating PSV 4-0. That's
you win 4-0. I think with Ramsdale, people have, and including myself, I've seen some people online saying, he hasn't done anything wrong. I said, well, that's not quite true, is it?
No.
We were in a title run-in, and he against Southampton, and he passed the ball to their attacker who scored in the first 20 seconds. I mean, in the title run-in, it couldn't go any worse. So it's there are reasons here. I think Sunday will really be the test of who's the number one. But we're going to come back onto that later. So, but essentially, yeah, Raya in. Fantastic performance from him. I think you'd agree with that. You said so. So,
100%.
So cool and calm with his distribution.
So composed. And just to go back to your earlier point as well, just keeping on Ramsdale a little bit. But goalkeeping is probably one of the most unforgiving, positions on the pitch. Ask Onana last night. He'll be the first one to tell you, letting the slide down, something special there. But if you listen to what Ramsdale says, as soon as we were linked to Raya, for example, everyone was quick to ask Ramsdale, how do you feel about this? And he's the first man to say that, no one should be the first name on the sheet. Every day you need to prove yourself to get on there. And he talks about this goalkeeping union. And you see it in the way he would have interacted with Turner, who's obviously off in Nottingham Forest now and doing quite well. But he seems to relish the challenge. And I think even on the things we saw from Raya last night, like his composure to come out and claim the ball, that is something that maybe you could say Ramsdale lacks a little bit. Sometimes his decision-making as to when to come out and when not to, and how calm and collected he is when he does that can be a little off. So I think, if anything, if he keeps the attitude he's showing in terms of a desire to grow, we have two great keepers on our hands. And, but Raya's performance last night, I think I seen a stat. He claimed the most high balls of any keeper recorded in a top league. So either top domestic leagues or Champions League in like the past 5-6 years.
Wow.
Just on his first night.
Wow.
And you need that.
Yeah, no, you
do. For the defenders out. When you have a clear decision making from the back, the defenders know what they're doing as well, and they can trust him a little bit more. He wasn't asked to take too many shot stoppings. Thankfully.
No, he wasn't. He's protected well. And I think one of the things that Ramsdale's got an issue with is, and I don't know how someone changes this, because it's almost part of his personality, I feel, and it might change as he gets older, is he is kind of jittery.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at him, he's not calm.
No.
He is a bit kind of, he flaps a bit and he gets emotional. And I don't think you want that in your keeper.
Not in a Champions League, Premier League winning last 5 games of the season, and everyone needs to be firm.
Yeah.
That might be something that you exactly that he could really improve on. Like, there was a couple of games last season where he is quite good on the ball. He's quite good in his clearances.
Absolutely.
And sometimes he'll still make the clearance, but he doesn't make it look comfortable. He encourages the defender to want to run onto him because they know they can ruffle him. And that's something I'm hoping with Raya. We have that option there of a bit more calm composure as we move deeper into, both the league and the Champions League. But yeah, as you said, we will talk about it later, but Sunday's a big test for the
hopefully the calmness will rub off on him. So in terms of the match, I thought it was quite poetic that was Saka that got the opening goal. I had a kind of bet with myself that Havertz was going to get the opening goal, but he didn't.
We all wanted him to some degree, but Saka, our star boy, you couldn't write it. Like you said, poetic. If any player really exemplifies this new breed of Arsenal, that's a Hale End boy right there. That's 100%. Arsenal through and through. And for him to have his first Champions League debut, to come out there clean, composed, slotted in when required, off the rebound, absolutely poetic. There's no one really, Havertz aside, as much as we're all willing that man on. Absolutely poetic from Saka. So calm and composed in what he does, to just jump on that ball and slot it under that pressure. Under the big lights here in the Champions League music, he looked at home. He looked as at home as any player I've ever seen in the Champions League. And
you're right. And actually, this has just occurred to me now. I think in the Fulham game and in the United game, he missed 2 chances that were similar to the one he scored yesterday. I think he had a header. Was it a header against United? I think it might have been a header against Fulham, and then a kind of, like, again, it was about 4 yards out against Lanana, and he just hit it to the goalie. It's actually, it's only just clicked in my head now that it was similar to the one he actually buried yesterday. But so nice for him. And he's really, over the last few years, he's experienced, the dross. He was there, when it was really going wrong.
I think he's the most started player in the Premier League in terms of consistent games, and by some fine margin. He's been there every weekend, day in, day out, getting his legs chopped down. He's been through it 100% since starting under Arteta as a right wing back. If we remember that interesting selection, he hasn't really missed a game. He's been a constant,
Yeah, it is a concern that I do feel like maybe he's not due an injury, because these things they're not guaranteed, obviously, and obviously we don't want it to happen, but he has had such a long run.
As much as we see him as a star boy, he possibly made of the same stuff as you and me, Cam, even though you wouldn't think it in the way he runs up and down that wing.
Yeah, I'd like him to get rested a bit more, but it was nice. It was nice for him to score the goal, and yeah, it did. It just felt right. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it felt correct.
You know, it's players like him as well. So Saka, your Odegaards, that the only thing stopping them from being unanimously called, I think, world class is they need to do it. They've been doing it in the league. Saka especially consistently. Odegaard now, you've seen the season he had for us as a captain, as a skipper, and really taking that decision to take those shots outside the box and consistently slotting them in. We're seeing him doing it, week in, week out. But the world will now start to see Starboy doing it as well. And I think that's important for him and for a lot of the boys. And that's why it is what it is. It's the Champions League,
Yeah,
just
it's the highest. It's the highest level, isn't it? Really, and I was surprised at how much space they gave him.
I think I messaged you. Yeah, it was like it couldn't be any more suicide ball than you don't see anyone in the Premier League now not putting two to a man on Saka. He must have thought it's like a kid on Christmas. The space he has. Respect to them. They had a game plan, and they stuck to it. They obviously fancied themselves coming in, but it was refreshing seeing Saka being able to move with such freedom. Because as we said, we just came out of the game with Everton, and what a turnaround into an approach to playing Arsenal where they're like glued to him at times. Anywhere he goes,
yeah,
straight out.
They follow him around. In fact, talking of Everton, obviously Trossard popped up again with a just beautiful finish. Just a beautiful,
is he the best finisher on the squad in terms of actually finishing those chances? Clinical.
He's up there, isn't he?
He's up there.
He's up there.
I think he's a conundrum, Cam, because he hasn't quite seemingly earned that starting position for us. But what more can you do? Every time that man comes on, something happens. But that's a tough. Martinelli. Like, it's so great to have these issues now, Cam. Our issues used to be, I wish I could play none of these players. And now it's, I wish I could play all of these players. How do we work Trossard and Martinelli into the same starting lineup? It is a great position to be. But yeah, what a goal from him that was.
It was just a lovely finish. And it was really nice for us to start kind of putting the game to bed nice and early. And in fact, I'll change the banner here because
let's see what you got.
No mercy shown. We really and it was as ruthless as Mikel is being. And I do wonder if the players are kind of realizing, wow, I didn't realize Arteta was this harsh or this ruthless. This is the only word for it. And I wonder if any of that has kind of somehow just emanated into the mentality of the players that, okay, we really need to take care of business here. Because I was thinking before the game, it's been so long it felt, apart from Everton, the last game last season, we haven't really slapped anyone.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to win a league, I appreciate this wasn't in the league, but if you're going to win a league, you need to be able to slap a team. You need to be able to go 3, 4, 5. And we haven't.
You're sounding like my dad very much here. This is something he's big on, and something you need to be rightly big on to go with fire in the league is, consistently time and time again. We seen it last season. We'd be 1-0 up, 2-0 up, and we'd let it slip. We'd get draws. Fulham, even, if we're to bring it to this season,
Fulham, that's horrific.
You need to be able to go out and crush a game, similarly to the way, we see City do it. We talk about the City dominance. One of the things that they do quite consistently with the robot at the helm, absolutely burying a team. They don't, sit back and protect their lead. They're clever in the way they go about putting teams away, but it's normally by a few margins.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice to see that, and we kept the foot on, through the whole game. Through the whole game, we really didn't let off, and even when the changes started happening, and Havertz. In fact, I'm going to change it again here now. When Havertz kind of moved up front as well, I thought, he had a really good chance, didn't he? In the first half.
He had one where it was a genuine shot on goal, and he skied it a little bit.
Terrible.
He had a near header chance as well. I thought one of his best runs, as you said rightly, straight away once he kind of moved into that more 9 position when Jesus came off. He had a great little bit of skill showing to hold up the play and link up. And I don't think it was nearly him that put the chance away. But Havertz definitely showing improvements. And I think if we look at the way Arsenal have progressed from last season, not only exemplary was it yesterday in our ability to try and put the game away, but it's the overall level of control we try to have in a game now, our level of composure to some degree take that extra pass. The way we went about the Everton game, for example, was a prime example. We knew the goal was coming and we were confident in not rushing it too much, not trying to force it and let the ball get turned over on us. And with Havertz improving, you'd also have to point to our ability to do that is, for example, our world-class CDM, Decky Rice, comes off. But who do we now bring on? We have Jorginho, a great, sensible signing, Champions League proven to be able to come on in the dying minutes of a game and still retain that level of composure on the ball and those kind of forward passes that you need to the attackers to run onto as well.
No, it makes such a difference. It makes such a difference to the squad, and you just feel like with Havertz, we just need it all to come together. But he's just not quite. He just can't close the deal at the moment. He just can't quite close it, and you're just hoping once it clicks, it does click. I mean, I didn't when we bought him. And I've done videos from this from months ago. I didn't want us to go in for him. I wasn't. And this was mainly on the eye test. My argument was that, look, over the last 3 years, he's been at Chelsea. Not one Arsenal fan has watched us play Chelsea and gone, oh, wow, we should really sign Kai Havertz.
Yeah, 100%.
No, not one. I mean, in the past, you may have gone, okay, Kante, Drogba, all those, but never for Havertz. But he's here now and he's ours, so...
And one thing that, I think we're all, hopefully at that stage where a lot of us have really built up a concrete trust in Arteta, his vision, his culture he's built around the club. And that man, Arteta, seems to back Havertz to the moon. He sees something in him that he's confident he'll be able to bring out of him. And I think, we were starting to see that in this game. This was definitely his best game today. Again, it's just his ability to hold up the play a little bit, be a bit more physical. And what we really, do need to see from him now is those late runs into the box. In a similar way to say Xhaka was doing for us last season, we need to start seeing that from him. He was a big money signing, 65 million.
Yeah, it's and I think that didn't help either. I think if he'd been like in the 40s, then it's slightly different. But then for Arsenal fans, especially, it's like we're spending 60 plus million on a player. It's like, well, I'm expecting him to hit the ground running. But it didn't. It's not quite worked out like that. But it's still early on. One thing, I don't have a banner for it because I forgot to do it. But one thing I was really happy to see was Smith Rowe just get on the pitch.
Beautiful to see, and beautiful reception.
This guy who saved Arteta's job like 18 months ago. I mean, Arteta was out.
Single-handedly.
He was out the door. I wanted him gone. I was sick of his face.
Yeah.
I was like, get someone else, and it isn't happening. And then Smith Rowe came into the team. He dropped Willian, and he went on this crazy run. I think was he our top scorer one of the seasons?
Yeah, he was. He was literally dragging us through the league. He was banging them in, and he was making it look good as well. Like he was scoring worldies. He was making attacking runs in from the wings and slotting them in for us. Literally
beautiful footballer,
keeping Arteta in his job. But I'd love to see the fanfare reaction, singing his name when he came on.
I thought, I thought he was going to go. I got to say, I thought he was going to go.
Yeah, there was a lot of people talking about him. There was talk of transfers. I think, how much can you read into it? Chelsea are linked to everyone these days. But there was a lot of noise about a potential Chelsea transfer. I was always confident he would stay. I think he backed himself to get into the squad. But it's his fitness, I think, that's really holding him back. Now, I don't think it's, a tactical decision as much as his fitness ability to be in play at that level that we need him to at the moment. That's his main issue. Like you see, when he came on, he was good, but of the substitutions we made, probably the least impactful. He looked a little shaky, I thought, but that's only fair for the amount of time he has been out. I know he looked great with the England under-21s though, who obviously had a great tournament.
Yeah, he did. He did well there. I watched all that tournament just to get glimpses of Smith Rowe, just to see like what kind of condition he's in. That's how sad I am. And because he is my favorite. He is my favorite player. I'm not saying he's the best player or anything like that, but they're just certain players that you kind of, for whatever reason, you just get a soft spot for. And I really, and to be honest with you, to me, I look at him as like a potential £100 million player, because I feel like if he can replicate what he was doing before.
Still so young, and like we talk about him now. Like, you know, if you didn't know who Smith Rowe was, you're tuning in now. You think we're talking about some player who had his heyday and now it's gone. This is still a young player. Yeah. There's still development in Smith Rowe. He may have, single-handedly dragged us through a tough time a couple of years ago, and I've no doubt he has that ability in him. So, I mean, we talk about a price tag of 100 million. It's always nice to have a price tag, something like that, associated with a player. But yeah, personally, I do hope he stays. I
do as well, 100%. And I thought it was only 20 minutes, but I think he didn't look off the pace to me. He looked like, okay. He had one. His first pass was a bit off, but after that, he kind of looked like he belonged. And it's difficult when you've only got 20 minutes, because what do? Do you try and like do something crazy to try and catch everyone's attention, or do you just stick to the plan?
In the top left?
Yeah, exactly. You start doing Rabonas or whatever they call them, and all that kind of nonsense, just to try and get some heat and stuff. So great to see him back on the pitch, and I hope it works out. So let's get down to the serious business now.
Let's do it.
Let's change this up on here. It's the big one, the North London derby. Lots to discuss. Absolutely. And do you know, one thing that occurred to me earlier this week was, I can't remember the last time we both played each other when we're both kind of looking half decent.
Exactly.
Normally one of the others like doing real shit.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone goes out the window. It doesn't matter if you've been crap. This is an opportunity to turn it all around. And but that's not the case. That's not the case this time. Spurs are doing okay so far.
Dare we say, Ange at the helm, he seems to be doing, and without Kane, might we add, they're definitely not goal shy at the moment. I think it's just even more interesting after the game we've had. You know, PSV, they play very attacking, expansive football, and that's Ange all over as well. And it's going to be interesting to see how Ange reacts to having, I'm sure he's watched the game. I'm sure he's aware of the scoreline and how that went, and to see how he's going to take that as well. But, personally, I'm just hoping, I'm looking forward to another game where a team doesn't try to low block us to death, because they are a very, very capable side. They've made some very sensible signings in Maddison, as much as it pains me to say. I'm surprised more people weren't in for a player like Maddison, the price they got him in, making an instant impact for them. And as you rightly say, this is, probably the first time in a while where we're coming into it from a point of view of both teams are in an ascendancy. You mean last season we wiped the floor with them home and away, and made it look easy. This season, this game, a bit more interesting. Starting XI. Who gets in, who doesn't, is going to be interesting to see. As we said, will Raya take the helm here? I think if he does, I think we definitely know who our number one is, because that's a game where you want your strongest XI.
I can't see Ramsdale starting that game. I really can't. I would be shocked. I would be shocked if Ramsdale starts that game, because the pressure that would be on him.
I mean, this could be Arteta's version of Pep Roulette, though. He might introduce the world might be following in a couple of years the keeper rotation. He might have Raya on and sub him off in the 60th, and in comes Ramsdale. You don't know, but yeah, you'd have to think. If I was a betting man, I think I'd be more in line with yourself. I think Raya probably does get the start in terms of, again, going back to the composure you probably want to see. I'd love to see as well. I thought what Raya was doing quite well in the team, we're doing with a team like PSV, was drawing in that press in terms of making short passes to the back line, and really drawing that press. I wonder, do we go for something similar again with Spurs and really try and draw them in? Because, man for man, I back us to wipe them home and away again. Really,
Yeah,
I don't see why not.
I don't think Spurs will be will play it very open, even though they've kind of been quite free flowing. But it's interesting. You know, we'll find out a bit more about Ange. Is he like a Wenger in terms of he just sticks to his principles regardless, or is he more pragmatic? And he's looked at that game yesterday and gone, okay, so that's what happens if you sit off them and try and go toe to toe. And I think with the likes of Song and Kulusevski, I imagine he's probably going to try and soak it up and hit us on the break, a bit like Man United try and do over the last two or three seasons.
Our first loss last season was a bit of a painful one, and I think a lesson for Arteta in terms of the way he handles his substitutes at times. I think we got caught bad on the counter in that game, for example. Committing too many men far forward, and then Rashford making runs in behind. So he may try, and if he's sensible, I think he'll take that approach, because as I said, I think if he tries to go man for man with us, there's too much talent in this team right now not to tear right through them. So the sensible approach that you would see from Tottenham is probably to try and soak back those early minutes, as you say, keep a bit of composure, not get blown out. I'm just hoping we don't go for what we've done recently and concede in the first minute of a home game. That would be nice to do that. That's been shocking a bit recently, the consistency at which we're doing that.
That'd be terrible. Yeah, so I looked up some. Hopefully this bit works. I've got some.
Yeah, man's got the stats coming up.
Some stats from Sky Sports, so they're not a sponsor. And I've got to say, my confidence did dip
not a sponsor yet.
Stats. So so far, Tottenham are actually ranked number 1 in shots. We're ranked 7th, and they're also ranked 1st in touches in the opposition box and 2nd in touches in the final third. So look, I mean, some people love stats, some people hate them. I'm kind of both here, but I think it does show you that Tottenham are on a kind of upward trajectory, and in the league so far, I don't think we've been completely convincing, and that's possibly borne out here. But there's also, just looking here, comparing Conte to Postecoglou. If you look here, they've really improved. Now, admittedly, again, it's over a small sample of games here, but they've got, unless it was averages per game, so they're averaging 6 more shots. They're nearly doubling the touches in the opposition box. The passes in, higher possession, higher turnovers, pressure in final third. So they're clearly working a lot harder under Postecoglou than they were under Conte. It's probably because they just like Postecoglou more than they did Conte.
Yeah, I mean, Conte, an interesting manager. I don't think he was ever the right fit for Spurs. Towards the end, very much a manager who was throwing his toys out the pram, and basically just turned on the squad at one stage. I think he came out and just said, this team's never going to win anything, and there's a reason why they haven't. And I'd be, somewhat inclined to agree with him there. But yeah, no matter how much you wanted to try and disregard stats, they're there for a reason. And the important thing is they're not just XG merchants. They're not a Chelsea under Potter or a Brighton under Potter. They are managing to convert those chances at the moment. So we still need to take them seriously, even though it's the home game. And I think, bringing it back to focus a bit more on us. I think as Arteta tries to move towards a more control-heavy style of play, where we're really able to see out games, we've seen a little bit of a transition away from that front line clicking as much as they do. And that's going to be interesting to see as we move forward, specifically in this game. Will it be a case that, again, we take that early stage in the game to try and just get that control up, move the ball around quick and hold off to try and find our chances? How are we going to see that in this game? But I do think overall Arteta seems to be moving towards a style of play that's a little bit slower than last season, a little bit less explosive, but a lot more control, and try to see out games that way. Still plenty of chances to score, of course. And when you have players like Odegaard, we see his stats there facing off against Madison. but with his ability to slot that ball in the back of the net from outside the box, seemingly at will, there's always
He's really in the groove at the moment. He's in there's like this kind of naff term for it, something about being in the flow or something, a flow state or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he does look like he's in that state.
It looks effortless to him. He's what you call like one of those silky players. People call him a luxury player, whatever you want to call him. I know one thing: we absolutely robbed Real Madrid for him, 35 million. You talk about a high price tag player. Odegaard is absolutely it. That man is something. That man is something special. Because it not only is it goals, not only is it assists, but he carries himself so well on the pitch. He's always probably one of the first to try and initiate that press as well on the team.
Yeah, he is.
Even the composure with which he communicates with the refs, as it's definitely seems to be something there as much as possible, trying to stamp out now that crowd and the ref, although there's a team or two who still seem to get away with it a little bit. There's so many elements that make Odegaard who he is. He's a special player. Again, another player I think that in the Champions League, people will really start to see and cement him as someone that is world class. And again, best years ahead of him. So I hope he's a man, and I think he's the man who will step up to the mark against Spurs in the home game, and I back him to slot a big one away from outside the box.
He's about to apparently sign a new deal as well.
Yeah, isn't that a change in the way we do business to the past 10 years? Actually getting our best players all signed under contract, at a similar time, and them all happy to stay as well. But yeah, all accounts in the media are that the terms have pretty much been agreed for a while. And it's a matter of just getting that pen to paper. And I wouldn't be surprised to see something like a 4+1 or even a 5+1 coming from this man. I think he's going to be the future of Arsenal, along with the likes of Saka and Martinelli into the future, I think.
Yeah, he's part of that group. And you can really see he is almost like an extension of the manager on the pitch. I mean, Mikel clearly trusts him and has no kind of... I mean, it must be such a change from Mikel to have gone from Aubameyang.
It
was captain.
Did we do that, Cam? Was that actually? Did we have a?
It's great. It's
a fever dream.
I don't know if you ever had anyone like a friend just suddenly they really went through a period of making really terrible decisions, and suddenly they've turned their life around, now making all the right decisions. But it's the same person. It's like, well, why didn't you do that before? And it's almost like that with Arsenal and Mikel in some ways. Like he's made some such terrible decisions, but obviously he's not really doing that anymore. And Odegaard, he looks like a Disney prince, doesn't he? He looks like something out of a fairy tale. And
let's be honest, yeah. Call a spade, Cam. You're not wrong there. We've long since been handsome FC, and Odegaard's absolutely keeping that rep up for us as well.
Absolutely, and with Benny Blanco as well.
Oh, Benny Blanco. You talk about personal favorites. I think I'd have to give Benny Blanco maybe my nod, because the character from that player is phenomenal. The versatility to just go from centre back to Arteta's like, actually, you know what, we need you as a right back. No bother, boss. Let me get it done. And probably one of the best right backs in the league at the moment, I think personally. Little bits of shithousery as well, the type of stuff that's going to rile up other opposition fans, but you love to see. I don't know if you saw that little just big game mentality. I'm not going to let my man pass me, and he caught one of their players just by the ankle, just give him a little pull back. Let him know you're not going anywhere, pal. Benny Blanco. I
hope he doesn't do that in the latter stage of the competition if we're 3-0 up.
There's a time and a place. There's a time and a place, and I think I'm confident that he knows it, to be fair to him. I don't know. Do you ever use a site called a Reddit, Cam? It's
sometimes, yeah. Sometimes
I get a lot of my Arsenal news from there. So shout out to any of the /Gooners or /Arsenal boys. But it was great last season when we were collecting those 3 points after 3 points. There's the little gif of I can't remember what it's from, but it's the Emirates steward handing out the food to Benny Blanco, and he's like, "Thank you very much." And it was just great last season. Every time we get the 3 points, you just say, "Thank you very much, thank you very much," handing it across.
No, he's a brilliant player, and he's like you said, the shithousery involved with him is. He's probably our best player at that. Now that Xhaka's gone, and with Xhaka as well, there was always a chance
big
to go
loss
wrong.
to the shithousery. We've lost a big one there in that regards for sure.
But yeah, he can't get in an England squad.
Something going on there. Gareth Southgate, we've long since known he has his team and that's his team. You know, he's not going by form, or else there's many other players that would be in there by now.
It was weird during the World Cup because he got sent home from the World Cup.
Yeah, and
everyone started thinking like, what's has he got cancer? Is he?
The FA put up we're with you, Benny Blanco. They put up like a heart emoji and a picture as well. So yeah, everyone was touch and go with him for a while, but it didn't seem to be an injury. I mean, the word on the street is it was a bit of a bust up with the coaching staff. So
yeah, I think one of the video staff or something.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You forget that man, Benny Blanco. He doesn't even like football. Doesn't watch it. You know, plays it at the highest level. I don't even watch it, mate. So I wouldn't be surprised if he said something similar to that, and they took great offense. Gareth Southgate seems to be the type of man that would never take that, but he should be in there. As a centre back, though, there's some tough, right back opposition. Great players in the England squad at right back. You got your Walkers, etc. But that's the thing about Benny; he can play centre back and right back. We just haven't seen him need to do the centre back for a while. I suppose when we play the back three, when he kind of moves more into that centre back position, but his connection with Saka, for example, his knowledge of when to overlap, beautiful. He doesn't do it all the time. He just seems to do it at the right times, and it's that little knowledge as well that makes a good player great.
That is one thing, actually, I feel that we miss a bit. This is going to sound really harsh now, and it's not meant to be harsh on Odegaard. But I feel the connection with Smith Rowe and Saka is better than it is with Odegaard and Saka. Even though a lot happens on that side, I kind of feel like you don't really get, like, Odegaard can't overlap or underlap really with him, and it's all left-footed. And I just feel that we could open up even more opportunities with Smith Rowe in that position. But then obviously you kind of like, you can't really drop Odegaard at the moment. But when you're talking about connections and things like that, it's I just want to see Smith Rowe back in the team.
I think you might be right there. The song is Saka and Smith Rowe for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. We've got the song.
And they do have a synergy. Again, talk about connection. They're players. They've played together for years.
Exactly.
Smith Rowe came up a bit through the academy as well. And you can't understate that. I mean, talk about connection in football. I think that great German team that won the World Cup in 2016, was it?
Oh, the Ozil team.
Yeah, the Ozil team. That was a team that had played together fairly consistently as a similar starting lineup since about under 16s. If you go back and look at them, and a lot of people
they've been through the under 21s as well, and they then had a couple of tournaments. I think before they won it, there was that one tournament where they slapped England. That was the Lampard goal that never was.
Was it over the line?
Actually, it's who we can blame. We can blame Frank Lampard for VAR.
Goal or no goal, you still got slapped down that World Cup.
Sepp Blatter said after that will never happen again. And they brought in all the video technology after. This was Frank Lampard's fault. But yeah, that was an incredible. And yeah, they were built on those automatisms, or whatever you want to call it, where they just knew where the other player was going to be. And you see that sometimes with Eddie and Saka, and obviously you've got Reece Nelson as well. These guys there is that kind of language there between them all. And you can see it. You can see it in Havertz. He's trying to pick the language up, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
He's trying to learn it.
You could describe it as that, essentially, the language. He's getting there. He's not quite there. But you'll see, I thought even yesterday, you could see he was making runs. He was making clever runs. But
yeah, they weren't picking him.
Our team's awareness of when he's making those runs just needs to gel a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I think it's going to come for Havertz. I mean, I have a soft spot for him. I think there's a player in there for absolute certainty, and I think this type of an environment, he benefits from coming into a team that, although we want him to perform straight away, he doesn't necessarily have to. He does have the luxury of the team overall performing quite well. So I think we'll get it out of him sooner or later. I think we're going to start seeing assists from him and those late into the box arrival goals as well.
No, I agree. And one of the players I felt yesterday that could have put Havertz in a couple of times but didn't was Gabby Jesus. And I don't blame him for not putting him in. You know, okay, he's a striker. He's been out for a while. He wants to score as many goals as he can. And it's so nice to have him back for this game on Sunday, because there's no way Eddie's starting the game, is there?
We need that fluid. We need that fluid lineup, that link-up play that he'll do. Whether Martinelli or Trossard starts, I think Martinelli's still going to be injured, so it'll be Trossard. But that whole left side of the pitch lights up when Jesus is there. The versatility for him, when to drop out left, when to come in deep. His hold-up play is next to none. So to see him back in is delightful. But yeah, it is actually something I noticed myself yesterday. There were moments, and it's funny, the other way, Havertz was actually unselfish. There was a couple of times where he nearly lined Jesus up. Anytime Jesus got the ball, he was more than happy to try and scuff one in. That man either scuffs a shot from 10 or scores a worldie.
As long as they trust him. You don't want it like, but that kind of thing happens on the school ground, I suppose, where like you won't pass to your mate because you know he's just going to fuck it up. There's no point. You know, but at that level,
me, unfortunately.
Yeah, you'd hope at that level that doesn't really go through the players' heads. So, but yeah, no, we look completely different with Jesus in the team compared to Eddie so far from what I've seen. It's just it seems like the intensity just goes up, and that energy that Jesus has. We're talking about the energy that Raya has. It seems to have kind of exuded onto the team in terms of the calmness in the defense. Jesus seems to have a kind of opposite energy, but in a positive way, on the kind of rest of the attacking side of the team, and we just 100%. Seem to fizz. We're just like fizzing.
He's very intense. He anything he does on the ball, and his ability to take a man on, like. When he's in the box, you know he's doing something. He's getting past the first man for sure. And that's something that you maybe don't trust Nketiah to do as much. And again, it feels harsh talking like this because Nketiah, you know, he has been getting results for us as well, but it's the way the overall team looks when they're happening. And you can't help but feel a little bit more confident when Jesus is on the pitch. I think that's for certain. Just to bring us to, you know, possible rumors of where the squad might be going. There's, you know, and not to be disrespectful to Eddie again, you know, I've got nothing but love for that man. I
think you've read my mind here. I think you've read my mind.
You know, there's a certain man who's out for a betting ban at the moment who's spoken time and time again about how he likes a lot of what Arsenal are doing and has for a time or two. And that's one Ivan Toney. I think in terms of leveling up that squad one extra bit, I think that's some player to be able to have in rotation. Whether or not it happens, I don't know. I don't think he's staying at Brentford.
I was surprised to see that we were going in for him, because I wouldn't have thought Mikel would want a player who's got those off the field problems.
The skeletons in his closet.
Yeah, because it's. However, I was kind of a bit against it. But then I saw the figures today, and the figures were kind of like 50 million. And I kind of went, oh, okay, then that's not that's not crazy money now. 50 million,
50
like,
million
not a lot.
Is, you know, Chelsea played 95 for Mudryk. What is he doing?
Exactly. If we could pick up Ivan Toney for kind of like 55 million in January, it'd be really difficult to turn it down. But again,
he does. He does have certain traits as a person, certain things he's done and said that would make you question it. But I think the team is at a level now where the overall cohesiveness and the attitude in the team is so good. I think for a right price point, like you mentioned now, you know, could we absorb someone that has the potential to maybe be a bit unsavory? Possibly. Do I think he'll be, you know, keeping that unsavory level up? Well, you know, I don't know.
But yeah, I think it'd be fine in the dressing room. It's just you know, how bad is the gambling problem? I mean, you know, what are we talking about here?
I think he himself said he was addicted, and that's definitely a problem. Whether or not that was a mitigating factor he tried to use is one thing or another. But certainly calls into question his decision-making skills, I think, when the betting account was under his own name, apparently. He wasn't even trying to hide it. I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing in terms of his decision-making?
From Odegaard to Tony, it's quite
night and day.
All the prisms.
Yeah. But he's some player, and I just think
he is
elevating a man off the bench. He's a very similar profile to Nketiah in terms of he's a number 9. He's a finisher. He's a poacher. He's powerful. He's quite direct in his play, and very versatile in an entirely different way to a Jesus. So I just think it's an interesting one to see. And again, for the right price point, for something like 50 million, you have to say that's chump change. Unfortunately, these days it seems to be.
But okay, let me run another scenario past you though. Would you still go for Tony if it ruled you out or ruled us out for Ferguson from Brighton?
Oh, no. As an Irishman, if we get Ferguson, that's a dream signing. But I think that man's staying there for another year or two. But if there's a scenario that sees us get that player, I mean, what Ferguson's like 18 and he's getting 18, these numbers. Yeah. He's looking 18. Like an absolute goat for Brighton. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes at Brighton, and their talent selection is off the charts because they keep consistently finding these gems. You rate them for players, not a bother on them. Here you go, Evan Ferguson. We still. So to answer your question, if there's any opportunity of Arsenal going in for a player like Evan Ferguson, we would be silly not to. But to bring it back to price tag again, I mean, is he going to go for any less than 100 million unless he wants down his contract?
Absolutely. Whoever does that deal it's going to be a very difficult deal because he just signed a new deal last summer. Yeah. And I don't know how much of a rush he's in or isn't in. And I think, it just depends on, is anyone even going to try to price him out? I mean, City don't need him.
No, they've Julian Alvarez coming into such ridiculous form, and not to mention the bloody robot. I mean, we don't need to talk about that guy. So they're not in the market. United of Holland or Holland.
Although I think United would go in for him.
Chelsea need him, but will they go in again for another Brighton player after being rinsed time and again?
They've got no shame. They've got no shame.
And Cucurella, they can't. They do have no shame.
They have no shame down there, so they'll happily go in for him.
But you'd have to think, if it's Chelsea going from Brighton, will be like 155 is your starting position, please. I mean, what they got world record transfer fee was it a British record transfer fee for Cucurella? 125.
The Caicedo was 115 or something. I mean, it was up. Yeah, it's up there, isn't it? It was more than the Rice fee. And so, my only thing with the Tony thing, I wouldn't want it if it meant that we couldn't go for Ferguson, because unfortunately we aren't a Chelsea or a City where we do have these constraints and you do have to make these decisions. I would maybe question it. But if we sounded him out and he's gone, look, I'm staying here for the next 2 seasons. Okay, let's get Tony in.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about constraints as well, it's interesting, the way we've structured that Raya deal. That's actually, a lot of people I think we've just bought him, but no, he's on loan
he's
with
on
no
loan,
obligation to buy. A set fee, I think, is it 25-35 million. And by all accounts, that's what we're going to do. We will buy him. So then you have to question, why have we gone for this approach, and is it to do with possible FFP concerns that the team have, or are we just trying to do that way so that we can eye up, someone that we might have our eye on?
I think it's the FFP. And I think the Brentford manager might have even confirmed that as well, and and said that. So if we didn't sign him, I think he has a new contract which kind of triggers with Brentford.
Yeah, so that he signed a new contract as part of that. So he signed a contract with Brentford as part of the overall structuring of the deal. But by all accounts, he's our player. They even allowed him to play against them in the Carabao Cup as well. So they don't think they're getting him back. And speaking of, wins against Tottenham, one loading on the weekend, I think, didn't they go in for him for 35 million at the start of the transfer window? they put in a sizable bid
Oh
for him.
yeah,
And
they
were
did.
told,
They tried to sign him, didn't they?
yeah,
Yeah.
and they offered basically what we were getting him for, and they're told to keep fishing.
Yeah, I wonder if Raya knew. I wonder when he found out that, look, Mikel's sniffing around. Well, we've got ex-Brentford coaches in the setup, so I think Raya's been on the kind of scene of the club for a while.
We must have a good relationship with them if they're willing to structure a deal like that. Not every team would be, yeah, we'll loan him out and you can maybe buy him at the end. That those are definitely favorable terms when they've already rejected offers. But it shows, it shows something about what Arteta would have told him in those discussions when he signed. He obviously knew he was getting minutes. And speaking of the Arteta whispers in the ear, Decky Rice, I know you've already talked about that wonderful signing, but his ability to convince these players into signing is something special.
Yeah, he clearly has a way with him, doesn't he? And it just popped into my head actually. Like, we talk about how ruthless he's been, but also he's very compassionate in a weird way as well. I wonder if he goes for Tony, if he might try and do a swap deal with Eddie.
That's what I'm thinking. And again, I hate to say it, I feel like I could talk for 30 minutes about my love for Eddie. I feel like I have to point out, if anyone's watched the Arsenal doc, he absolutely slapped Lukanga down that time. When
Yeah, he did.
He's like, oh man, like I'm not getting any minutes. And he's like, bro, how do you think we're feeling? Just carry on and you'll get your time. Like, that's the mentality you want in the squad. But having said that, if Tony comes, I think, again, if we're looking at FFP constraints, Brentford are going to need a striker. I don't see why he wouldn't want to play first team football.
He would be who you were kind of looking at if you were Brentford, I feel. So an interesting scenario. We'll see where we're at.
Probably Chelsea come down and buy Nketiah for like 100 million a couple of years later as well. Everyone's aware.
That club. I mean, we should probably do a show one day, just a rivals watch.
Yeah.
Just to look 100%. At just the horrific. It's like watching a car crash.
Times two, like 180 million or something. Bought him, realized this guy doesn't want to be here. Let's loan him out, sell him. Oh, now we need him again. Here's another 90 million. Oh no, never mind. He's a pile of crap.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea and United they're just constantly holding my beer. They're just like trying to one up each other on the decision making. You kind of feel like, look, if you chuck that much money at it, it should kind of all work itself out, but it doesn't feel like that. I will say, maybe not in defense of Chelsea, but I will say that it is a whole new team there. And 100%. It really is. We're only 4 or 5 games into the season, and if they can get to kind of like January time, they'll have Nkunku back, who is a top quality player.
100%.
If they can get into some kind of pattern of the one game a week, then if you could just string like 3 or 4 wins together, you can jump up that table quite quickly. And they're not looking to win it; they just want to get back in the Champions League. But they are. They're looking. I wouldn't want to be a Chelsea fan right now.
Yeah, their issue definitely isn't in inherently the players themselves. There's absolutely talent there. It's their ability to play as a team, and unfortunately for Chelsea, it is a team sport. And they just have too many of them. They don't have a clear identity at the moment. But yeah, I think they have a starting XI that's probably as valuable in terms of transfer fees that's injured at the moment as to Arsenal, just as the players that they actually have out. But I know they have a tough run of fixtures as well. I think they have one of the
they have. They've got a pretty bad run coming up, haven't they? I've seen it. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's terrible.
Yeah,
it's potentially career ending for a manager. I don't think they'll get rid of Poch. I think they'll stick with him.
They can. I mean, there's only so many times you can do it before you realize you're just not helping the issue. So at some stage, you just need a bit of stability in the club. And all this talk of clubs in turmoil, clubs that were great, have a great history, and then have either changed the squad or lost the manager, and all of a sudden in turmoil, it just really refocuses everything that Arteta has done for Arsenal, because that was us. We've had our weird years subsequent to Wenger. We had our banter years. And then to be able to talk about the things we've been talking about today and the way the squad is looking and performing, it shows there is a way of doing it. And maybe the way isn't just throwing money at it. Now, to be fair, we have a few large transfer fees in there. We do have a Pepe in our closet as well, who I believe, did we end up terminating his contract there?
Yeah, we terminated. But every club, United have got several Pepes. Chelsea have had Pepes.
Sancho, aka Ala Pepe.
yeah. And I can't really. Maybe Liverpool might have had. They had a midfielder they bought for 50 million that went last season for free. I can't remember his name. Not Kanate, but someone else. But he went back to Germany. They bought him from Germany. So Liverpool seem to dodge the real big. Like if Nunes doesn't work out, I suppose he would be their equivalent. But I think he'll be fine. I think Nunes.
I think he will be. He's a chaos baller through and through. Nunes, I think he will. He'll come good for Liverpool. But yeah, no, they are a team that, and again, it's around their transfer policy though, because they don't have a history of overbidding on a player, similarly to a City to some degree. I mean, it's super impressive City's model, where if they don't think a player is worth a certain value, they won't bid. We've seen it with Declan Rice, for example. They put in a bid, and as soon as we gazumped them, they walked away. They have no issues walking away.
Yeah. I remember people kind of like saying, "Oh, City weren't really interested in him," and they were just kind of, it's like, what a load of rubbish. It's like
they put 100 million nearly in terms of an offer. Like,
of course, they were interested in. Now, is he as worth as much to City as he is to Arsenal? Probably not. No, he has more value for Arsenal than he does for City. Unless City were going to buy him just to stop him going to Arsenal and just trying to like.
Which, I mean, would be a complete 180 from the team that sold us Jesus and Zinchenko in the same transfer window.
Yeah, exactly.
And nearly lost the league because of it.
Yeah, it was a bit close for them, wasn't it? So let's it's time to put our proverbials on show here, sort of predictions. Coming up to the hour mark.
This is where we put the money where the mouth is.
I don't normally ever do predictions.
I'm historically bad at them.
I'm such a pessimist. I'm convinced Arsenal are kind of always going to mess it up.
We can't be having that.
He's just scarred me mentally. But in terms of predictions, how do you see the game going, and what do you think the final score is going to be?
I think 3-1 is the scoreline I have in mind. We, funny enough, our away record is a lot more solid in defence than our home record is. Yeah. We seem to still have that goal in us. I don't know, what that is. Is that a mentality thing? And again, you can't negate. We spent a bit of time talking about Spurs and their improvements, specifically in, like you mentioned, touches in the box. If you're getting touches in the box, you're going to score eventually. So I think we will concede. But I think Tottenham are going to surprise us in how attacking they're going to want to approach the game. I think you're right. They're not going to balls to the wall PSV it, but they're going to look to punish on the counter. They're going to be out and about, and I think they're going to suffer for it. And I think we're going to see the boys shine. I think you could be right. I think Raya is going to get in there. I think Trossard will be in for Martinelli. I don't think he's back fit. Other than that, I think pretty much, I think similar XI to the game just gone against PSV. And I think 3-1. And I think we make it look pretty decent doing it as well. That's it.
I think I had 3-1 in my head. It seems like a kind of score we do a lot. 3-1.
Especially at home, we can't do a 3-0. I know we've just done
a 4-0. Definitely not going to be a clean sheet. There's definitely not going to be a clean sheet. I'm thinking either 3-2 or 4-2. I think maybe 4-2 I'll go with, which is extremely optimistic for me. I think there are some omens that don't look good for us in terms of like Richarlison just suddenly seems to have got back into a bit of form.
He's had a game. He had 10 minutes of a game, Cam.
I know, but the way it happened, it was like the last second.
Before that, he was crying, saying he was going speaking to a sports psychologist.
Well, it clearly worked.
If we did actually end up having that conversation, and that, fair enough, maybe.
It clearly worked. Whoever that guy was, Jordan Peterson, I don't know who it was, but It completely worked.
You got to tidy up your room, Richarlison. You got to tidy up your room before you score the goals.
Yeah, absolutely. He tidied his room and he set up the goal and scored the winner. So I think Maddison's obviously in form and Richarlison's in form. Ming-Son always seems to like a goal against us as well. So I think I'll go with the 4-2. I think Spurs will give it a good go, and it might be like 3-2, and then like United, we just kind of catch them on the counter and do them over. Hopefully, there's no kind of like controversy in terms of like VAR.
I was going to, funny enough, you mentioned that. I was going to say, do we put a wild card VAR overturning of a goal one side or the other, or
there's probably going to be a disallowed goal in there somewhere. Yeah. There's probably going to be a disallowed goal. It'll be weird not to have Harry Kane on the other, you know.
I mean, weird is one way of putting it. Delightful is another. If we talk about, you know, players who have terrorized us over the years, Harry Kane is definitely up there. And it will be weird. So much of Spurs' identity over the past couple of years has been Kane first, and then I suppose Son as well. I know this is our first time playing them without him.
Because he was never injured, was he? I mean, he was never injured for any of the games.
For us, anyways. He doesn't pull a Partey.
He was always fit.
He doesn't pull a Partey and get injured for the big games. He was there. He was there if he was playing us, and he was trying to put one in. But lest we forget that picture of him in the Arsenal shirt back in the day.
True gooner.
We know his true colours. I think, was it Thierry Henry says he looks good in red and white.
Well, I was really hoping he was going to stick out another season and we were going to do a Sol Campbell part 2. I was convinced that Mikel had put a word in. I said, look, just hold out a year. Just hold out a year, Harry.
Well, he could come back. You know, he doesn't have a long contract with Bayern, and I think there's a buyback option for Spurs. You know, who knows where he goes? But yeah, Sol Campbell 2.0 would have been an interesting one. I think if any player from them you're going to want it's him for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, look, I think we'll wrap it up. I want to do an hour, and we've got to an hour without any problems. We could probably go on
when you're having fun.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. So, really, really enjoyed it. Great fun.
Absolutely.
Would love to do it again. So if you watch this video, please comment. We read all the comments and like and subscribe, and tell us what you think is going to happen on Sunday as well. Can't wait for the game. So it's not the 4:30 kickoff, is it? It's
1 p.m. It's 1 p.m. I believe.
1 p.m.
Yeah, okay. Nice and early. Lots of the Sunday left to soak in the victory, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So fingers crossed on that. But look, again, everyone, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching the video. And no doubt you'll be seeing me and Sean sometime soon. Thanks very much.
Peace out, guys.
All right, so let's just